Chapter 7 Shri Gurudev Datta Parabrahmane Namaha. The glory of Shri Gurucharitra. The disciple Namadharaka was quite curious to know from the mouth of Shri Siddhamuni as to the reason why Shripad Shri Vallabha Guruji preferred holy place Gokarna for stay by ignoring the rest of the other holy places. In response to his query, Sage Siddha thus started narrating the glory of Shri Gurucharitra Chapter to Namadharaka in this manner. In the past, there was a brave and religious king named Mitra Shah who belonged to Ikshvaku lineage. One day in the month of Vaishak, that mighty king entered a thick forest which was inhabited by wild animals on a hunting mission. While he was on the mission of hunting, he came across a ferocious demon. The king, who grew angry at his sight, instantly annihilated that terrible demon using his arrows. The demon, who was inflicted with injury by that mighty arrow, became unconscious and within a few minutes left this either world. While he was about to die, he called his younger brother Bali, who was besides him at that time, and insisted him to take revenge against the king who had annihilated him. The grief-stricken brother, to take revenge against the king and annihilate him, attained a deceitful human form through illusory powers, and by his nice, kind, decent behavior and sweet words impressed upon the king favorably and joined the palace as a chef. The demon, who was well versed in illusory powers, pretended to be a honest and dependent servant in the palace and served the king devotedly. Thus, within a short period of time, he occupied the position of a trustworthy servant of King Mitrasaha. Once the king, on the day of observance of death anniversary of his father, invited his Guruji Vasishtha and other sages for the meal. To prepare delectable food, he appointed that crooked demon to supervise the cooking operations. The demon, who was in the guise of a head cook, thought that it was the opportune time to avenge the death of his dear brother, and hence, while preparing delicacies without the knowledge of anyone, used human flesh. Thus, some dishes were prepared by using human flesh. After the death anniversary rituals, the king, who was unaware of his mischief played by the demon chef, served the food which contained human flesh to Sage Vasishtha and other sages dignitaries. Sage Vasishtha got irritated when he realized that human flesh was served to him through food. In a fit of anger, he said, "O King Mitrasaha, you have shown disrespect to me by serving human flesh that is unworthy of consumption for today's death anniversary meal. Know well that I am your Guru. You were careless to serve your Guru. This sinful act of yours needs to be atoned at this moment only. You shall become a deadly ghost of a Brahmana and wander in the jungle." Thus he cursed the king. The king was upset when he was subjected to curse by the sage. He thought in his mind thus, "I am not at fault for this folly. There is no direct lapse on my part. I am not personally involved in any way. Without using his due diligence, Guru Vasishtha ought not to have given this curse to me." The king, speaking to Vasishtha, said, "O the revered sage, I was not aware of the fact that the food served to you was prepared out of human flesh. This is an act of wicked ones which needs to be condemned. I am not at fault so far as this act is concerned. Being an innocent man for no fault of mine, I have been cursed of becoming a ghost of Brahman. In return, I too curse you." Thus saying, he took a little water in his hands and was about to curse the sage. By that time, his chaste wife came forward and blocked him from cursing Guru Vasishtha. She enlightened him with the wisdom that by cursing Guru one invites countless sins and hence he should resist himself. She begged before him to surrender at the lotus feet of Guru Vasishtha and pleaded for pardoning his sin. Wise counsel prevailed over the king, and as such he consented to her timely device. On the advice of the king, he embraced Guru's feet and he poured the water which he had taken in his hands on his own feet. As the sacred water fell on the feet of the king, they turned to black color, but the curse could not be nullified instantly. From that moment, the king became a Brahman ghost by name Kalmashapada, one having black feet. The king's pious wife prostrated before the feet of Guru Vasishtha and prayed for pardoning him and grant him deliverance. The angry sage Vasishtha's heart got diluted. He told her that the curse once given cannot be reverted, but after 12 years from then her husband shall be freed from the curse and again would become a king. Thus saying, he gave a nullifying curse. The king, so cursed, started wandering in the dense forest area and swallowing available beasts, birds, animals, and human beings recklessly. Thus, while wandering in the forest, he happened to come across a young Brahman couple. While he was planning to swallow the Brahman, his wife prayed to him by various ways to save her husband's life. Without heeding to her prayer, that cruel adamant ghost slain her husband and swallowed him. The aggrieved wife of the slain Brahman cursed him thus: O demon, as per the curse you have already received after 12 years, from now you are going to be relieved from that and shall become a king again. Your wife too shall be separated from you the moment you touch her, the way in which I am subjected to separation from my husband now, and then you shall die soon. After cursing him, she performed the funeral rites of her husband and entered the funeral pyre. After 12 years, that Brahman ghost was retrieved from the curse and again turned to be a human being. Soon after that, he occupied the princely throne. The king narrated to his wife the incident that took place while he was wandering as a Brahman ghost in the forest, whereby he happened to swallow young Brahman fellow, and the curse given by his disturbed wife to him that should he happen to come in contact with his wife, he would be surely meeting his grave instantly. King's wife Damayanti was deeply disturbed when she learned that her husband was subjected to curse again. Later, both husband and wife grieved for some time. The king arranged for an assembly of his chief priests, elderly enlightened people, and requested them to suggest a suitable remedy to get absolved from the sin arising out of slaying of a Brahman by him. In that august gathering, all were of the unanimous opinion that the king must undertake pilgrimage to all holy places in the manner prescribed by the sacred scriptures to get relieved from the curse. The king accepted their advice and visited all holy places and performed yajna and related fire sacrificial rituals. Besides, he also served food to the Brahmins to their content and practiced other religious rituals. He also liberally donated resources in the form of charity at those places. By his virtuous acts, he kept the Brahmins contented and in turn earned their blessings. However, even after doing all that, the king was not relieved from the sin of slaying a young Brahman. The king, who suffered a lot, got disappointed immensely. No suitable thoughts and solutions occurred to his mind. The king, who was thus suffering from anxiety, arrived at Mithila city in the course of his pilgrimage. To his good fortune, the great sage Gautam incidentally happened to arrive there. The king prostrated before the sage with all humility, devotion, and due affection beneath his feet and rolled. With the help of the faculty of his eternal knowledge, sage Gautam had already realized the pitiable condition of the king. Even then, he wanted to know the state of affairs from the mouth of the king himself. After learning from the king about his horrible condition, the sage felt pity on him. In order to enable him to get rid of the sins which he had committed, the sage instructed the king Mitrasaha thus: O king, you need not unnecessarily bother about your problem. Shun your fear and anxiety. There is a meritorious place called Gokarna, which is the abode of Lord Shiva. It is such a place that even saints, sages, gods, and other great souls have sought boon from Lord Shiva. You shall undertake pilgrimage to Gokarna. The place is so sacred that just by remembering it, one's sins get instantly diluted. By performing religious rituals there, you would be released from all your sins and misdeeds. By the grace of Lord Mahadeva, you shall certainly be freed from the sin of killing a Brahman and get purified. Trust my words and act. In this virtuous place Gokarna, if you serve Lord Shiva, especially during Shivratri, you shall easily earn special religious merit. There is no place in the entire universe, Brahmanda, which is equivalent to the Gokarna Kshetra. The Guru's words made an indelible impression on his mind. The king then prayed to Sage Gautam to favor him by kindly narrating an ancient incident to establish the supremacy of Gokarna Kshetra so that he can get deeply impressed. Sage Gautam considered to his request and to favor him, started narrating an incident in the matter. Hey king, listen to what I have to say. Now I am going to give you a very curious and interesting incident which I had witnessed personally. I know the glory of Gokarna Kshetra fully well. Once during the chariot festival of Mahashivratri, a huge crowd of devotees had assembled at Gokarna. On the succeeding day of Shivratri, while I was resting beneath a tree at Gokarna, I saw an old widowed lady whose entire body was infected with leprosy, sores, tumors, and other diseases. Her body was stinking. She was an ugly woman inflicted with grief. She was troubled by three dosha, namely Vata, Kapha, Pitta. Pus and blood comprising of worms was oozing out from her diseased body. Her health got deteriorated and she finally expired. No soon after her death, a celestial aeroplane arrived on the scene along with the attendants of Lord Shiva and landed there to carry the body of that low caste woman to the abode of Lord Shiva. Then I questioned the attendants of Lord Shiva as to the reason why they were carrying that mean minded, sinful, ill behaved, atheist, and irreligious woman to the abode of Lord Shiva. To my query, the attendants of Shiva started narrating the life story of her previous birth in detail. They said, Revered Sage Gautam, this woman in her previous life was a beautiful woman by name Saudamini. When she attained marriageable age, her parents could not find a suitable match for her as bridegroom. She was furious at her youthhood itself. Finally, her parents succeeded in getting her married to a pious bridegroom hailing from a priestly Brahmin family. He was possessed with all good virtues like simplicity, decency, nobility, and so on. Somehow, her married life did not last for long. At a very young age, her husband, who was afflicted by a serious disease, expired. Saudamini, at her young age, itself had strong sexual tendencies. She used to get excited occasionally at the sight of other male persons. Unable to control her sexual instincts, she started practicing adultery. One day, her parents noticed her adulterous behavior, and the disturbed parents could not bear with her anymore. She was driven out from home. Even other people from the community hated and boycotted her. Since then, she enjoyed full freedom to practice adultery openly. She started behaving in a self-willed manner. After some time, she developed intimate relationship with a man from business community and succeeded in getting married to him. Once she consumed excessive quantity of alcohol, as a result of which she was highly intoxicated. While in a hurry, she mistook the calf of a cow for that of a goat and butchered the same to prepare some non-vegetarian delicacies. She realized her wrongful act soon and repented very much for the same. She was leading a happy and contented life with her husband. With the passage of time, one day she became a victim to the serious ailment and expired. Then the attendants of death, God Yama, took her to the abode of Yama. There she suffered hell-related miseries, and in her next birth was born as a blind, dumb, and an ugly woman in a low caste family. Right from her childhood, she lived on leftover food items of others and grew. On account of her misdeeds in the previous life, she suffered from leprosy throughout the body in this life. When her parents expired, leaving her alone, she was driven out of home by her own relatives. For survival, she was left with no other alternative than begging. At her old age, she was totally deprived of food, shelter, and clothing. Afflicted by hunger, sometimes she used to grieve throughout the night. As she was getting aged, her health problems deteriorated. Once on the day of Shivratri festival, which falls in the month of Magha, she joined the troop of beggars who were on the way to Gokarna. Mahashivratri festival was being celebrated with pomp and pleasure at Gokarna. With the help of pilgrims, she reached Gokarna throughout the journey, seeking alms from the people. In her previous birth, she had uttered the only name of Lord Shiva only once. As such, on account of that merit she acquired, she was fortunate enough to undertake the journey to that great place, Gokarna. As the low caste sick woman was deprived of food, she was intensely suffering from severe hunger. As on the day of Mahashivratri, all were observing the fasting vow, she could not get any food in alms. In order to tease her, some people were seen throwing holy bilwa leaves in her begging bowl. Mistaking it for food, she picked up those leaves and smelled them, and when she realized that they were not food substance, disgusted, she threw them away in a fit of anger. Due to her good fortune accrued from virtuous actions, one of the bilwa leaves thrown by her fell on the nearby site of Shiva Fallas. As it was the time of terrific darkness, she naturally had an opportunity to worship Lord Shiva. As she was awake throughout the night, she earned the merit of adorning Lord Shiva. As the bilwa leaves, which she angrily threw away, fell on the phallus of Lord Shiva, she earned the merit of offering the same on the auspicious day of Shivaratri. That means she effortlessly gained the fruit of observing the Shivratri day, though she did not mean it that way. Lord Shiva, who was pleased by her pious act, lifted her from the ocean of physical world. The woman who suffered a lot due to sleeplessness, multiple diseases and hunger had no desire to live anymore in this world and was waiting for the last moment. In that pitiable condition, when she arrived beneath a tree, she suddenly fell unconscious and immediately breathed her last. Due to the religious merit earned on the auspicious occasion of Shivratri, she got rid of her sins and made an entry into the abode of Lord Shiva. So she earned a place in Shivaloka. In fact, she did not observe the Shivratri vow either out of devotion to Lord Shiva or on her own willingness. Her visit to Gokarna was for earning livelihood and not sacred. She was not even aware of the glory of Gokarna. Still, the kind-hearted Lord Shiva considered all her actions on the day of Shivratri as the form of devotion to him and redeemed her. After hearing the glory of Gokarna Kshetra from the mouth of sage Gautam, King Mitra Saha was immensely influenced. He obliged to the advice of sage Gautam and immediately arrived at Gokarna and worshipped Sri Mahabadeshwar with deep faith and devotion. By the grace of Lord Mahadeva, he got relieved from the sins he committed by killing a Brahmin. For that reason only, Shripad Shri Vallabh, on the pretext of pilgrimage, visited the most glorious Gokarna Kshetra and stayed there for some time. Here ends the 7th chapter in the most auspicious Shri Guru Charitra. Shri Gurudeva Dutt, Shri Gurudatta, Treyarpanamastu.